Welcome to Aging Insights. I'm Melissa Chalker, Deputy Director of the New Jersey Foundation for Aging. The Foundation's mission is to enable seniors to live with independence and dignity in their communities. Aging Insights is produced by the New Jersey Foundation for Aging to provide information and resources to boomers, seniors, and caregivers, the primary focus being to share important information and connect people to community-based programs. Today we're going to be talking about housing, and specifically affordable housing models. We'll look at some non-traditional options and talk to experts about the important role that safe, affordable housing plays in the aging process. Our guests are Lisa Blum, Executive Director of Home Sharing, Inc., Mary May Henley, Strategic Consultant for Senior Health and Housing, and Katie York, Project Director of Lifelong Montclair. Thank you all for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedules to be here with us and share this important information with our audience. So, Lisa, I did want to start with you, and if we could start off by you telling people a little bit about your organization, Shared Housing, Inc.
Home Sharing Inc.
Home Sharing, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Home Sharing Inc. Attempts to create affordable housing solutions by matching people who need to rent space in their home in order to maintain them with people who are looking for affordable housing in the community. So it is unique in that, it's very cost effective, but also it serves a variety of populations. So while our typical home provider is an older adult, usually living on a fixed income, taxes are going up, the income is not going up, and they want to stay at home and as long as they possibly can. Our typical seeker is someone who has experienced either a relationship or job change and therefore has lowered income.
Right. So let's talk about that a little bit more in depth so people understand what it is you're explaining. So the concept of home sharing is that someone who has a home and has extra space and possibly needs extra income would rent space to someone who's looking for a cost-effective, affordable place to live. Is that correct?
Is basically it.
Okay, great.
So while that is our typical population, because of the economy being not in such great shape, we now have families with younger children who might want to be home providers, a whole range of people.
Right. So I did want to talk about that specifically because in your definition, and I saw on your website that you talk about, is it providers and seekers?
Yes.
Right. So the provider obviously is the person who's renting the space in their home, and the seeker is the person who's looking for an affordable option of space to live, correct? Right. And so there is no age requirement to participate, is that?
They have to be 18 years old.
Right.
They have to be adults, although children can come with their parents or be in the home with their parents.
Right.
That's the only age requirement.
Right. And so your organization acts as the I guess the broker of this situation. You help people to find each other and to develop a contract, or how do they?
It's a little bit more than that.
Yeah,
so the home sharing process
is
is pretty detailed. So it starts with either a phone call or visit to our office. Our office is located in Bridgewater, but we serve 7 counties in New Jersey. Okay. So we started in 1984 in Somerset and Hunterdon counties. In 2011, we moved into Middlesex, Morris, and Union counties. And in 2015, we started serving the greater Montclair area, which includes Essex County and a couple of towns in Passaic County. It starts with a phone call or a drop-in, and we do a very quick phone screening to see what are their needs, what are they looking for, basic demographic information. Do they have transportation? Where do they want their home to be located, or where is their home located if they're a provider? We send them out an application where they fill out more detailed information, give us references, sign a release of information form for us to talk to any service providers that they might be working with, and then we do a criminal background check and a Megan's Law check. After that, the application comes in, we check their references, make all the calls. When they've passed that, we set up an interview with one of our social workers, and that's when we find out even more about them. What are their likes and dislikes? What are their habits? What's their daily schedule like? What are their needs? How has it been in other living situations? We do this for both the home seeker and the home provider.
So for the provider, does this interview take place in your office or in their home? Is there a home visit that's
There
done?
is a home
Okay.
visit. The interview is when the home visit occurs
Okay.
to the home provider, not to the home seeker.
Right.
And then we look to see that they have everything that they said they had in their home. If there are any safety hazards, if, for example, they could say, I have a bedroom, and the bedroom looks great, and the bathroom looks great, but there's clutter all over the house.
Right.
So that would not be an acceptable situation until they fix that up.
Right.
The thing that is required, though, is that every seeker has to have their own room, and all the common areas of the home are shared. So that would be kitchen, living room, bathroom, any other space. After the interview and everybody's been through all these checks, we give the seeker and providers several numbers of other seeker and providers. They talk to each other, they meet up, sometimes in the home, sometimes in a public place. They decide that they're a match. And when they decide they're a match, they let us know. And the social worker goes out and does what's called a shared living agreement. And that talks about what fee would be paid to live there each month, if there's a security deposit, and the rules about that, but also who does what in the home. What day does the garbage go out? How long can dishes sit in the sink? Toilet seat up or down? Things that couples should deal with before they move in together, but generally don't. And so all the little details, and try to work that out and negotiate it, and then a date is set for move-in. And then we monitor the match at 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and a year out. At 3 months, we send a survey to see if everybody is satisfied and if they had their needs met by our program. So that's what we do.
Wow. You're right, that is a lot more than just matching people. There's quite a process in there. So I do want to make sure we make a couple of things clear for folks that are watching. The process of the interview and all of that, I mean, it sounds like, you're gathering a lot of information that's very helpful. So when they come up time to do the contract, is there a set form that you use, or is it the ability of the seeker and provider to either come up with their own or to add things to what you generally use?
Both.
Both.
So we give them a list of things to, at the first stage when we send them the application, we also send them as home sharing for you. Have I ever shared before? What does it mean to share a home? What questions should you ask yourself? Before we get to the shared living agreement, it's the same kind of thing to prepare them for things to think about. So they may add special things, and then we, try to cover all bases based on things that have happened before in other shared living situations, et cetera.
Yeah, and I would imagine that during the interview process for both parties, things like smoking and pets are things that are talked about in advance.
Right, and that's actually on our screening: smoking, pets, firearms. Do you have them? Do you have allergies? Can you live with these things or not? So yes, and one nice thing about home sharing is that it does include pets, where very many shared housing situations do not.
Might not,
include that.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is true. And so in the kind of review process or the survey process you do to check in on them once they've agreed to share space and begin sharing space, it's nice to know that you do it at such frequent intervals.
Yes.
Could you tell us maybe what are some common disagreements or issues that come up that maybe are fixable and some that aren't, and what happens if something's not fixable?
Okay. Well, let's talk about the fixable ones, the typical things that happen. And we've been very lucky. We haven't had any terrible things happen. But the fixable things are, the seeker might come home at night late from work and the other person's sleeping and there's too much noise in the house. Might be that the person stays home all day and the TV's always on and the shared space, one person doesn't feel that they have access to it. So it's just things like mediating, making up a schedule for it, talking about it. And a lot of what we do is teach people how to say what it is that they need and make those requests of other people, because sometimes people haven't lived like that and feel uncomfortable with it.
Sure.
And then, of course, there's obviously check-in also, because home sharing is not just an affordable housing solution. It really helps senior citizens because their need is not always for rent, but it's for some services in the home. And we don't have so many service agreements. A lot of it is just financial. But the service agreements may include things like heavy housekeeping, taking out the garbage, running errands, transportation, nothing physical, no hands-on, no bathing, no dressing, or any of that. But
Right. I'm glad that you brought that up because I forgot that as a component that is something that you also help people to arrange, is that, you know, this is not just a situation where someone who owns a home and needs more financial support can say, I'd like to rent some space in my home to someone who can help me to pay the bills by paying for this space. But if there's someone who also needs help around the house, they can, in addition to the living agreement, also have a service agreement, right?
So we've had people come in and say, I don't want any rent, I just want service. Or some people really just want another body in the house or some companionship.
Right.
So they may reduce, and we always say the person has to pay a little something, at least $50 a week,
Right.
and that would be $200 a month rent, which is
Right.
wonderful. But the average rent is about $650. So when there's a service agreement, you know, we have to make sure that the things that were going to be done are getting done. So that's some of the things that might come up as a problem. They're not doing what they said they would do, or
Right.
not doing it the way they would like. So that would be cleaning. They don't dust they don't move the objects on the table to dust, things like that. But very often the seeker is there. You know, we've met the people, we've screened as best we can, but you don't really know someone until you live with them.
Sure.
So they're identifying needs that the provider themselves might not have identified, that they're struggling and having some trouble. So again, that's not an unsolvable problem, but it means bringing in other community services for them.
So you brought up the average rent is $650 that someone pays to live in someone else's home. Is that a benchmark that your organization sets, or do the providers come to you and say, this is how much I'd like to ask?
Yes, because remember, both sides are our clients, not just the people looking for housing,
right.
but they need the money to keep their homes, so they have to decide what that would be. We could say, well, based on the people who come to our agency, we don't think they can afford that. And kind of give them guidance, or say a typical home like this would usually go for this amount. Some people hold out for what they wanted at the beginning, but then it's harder to place people there, and so they're going more months without the extra income rather than getting a little less for a longer period of time.
Right. Understood. Understood.
Yes.
Well, this has been very eye-opening, and so I think it's great information. In the process where you do the follow-up interviews to make sure things are going well, if in between they have a problem, they would call your organization and talk to one of the social workers who could help them work through it, mediate whatever the concern is?
Yes, absolutely. And so we make the calls out at those intervals. They
Right.
can make the calls in anytime they want. And we also have get-togethers, like after-work get-togethers for our clients, an annual picnic that we have at our
interesting.
office space, which has a nice outside spot. So we get to see them then. We give holiday gifts out, so we see them then.
Great. And so the final, I guess, check-in is at a year, is that what you said? And then
Sort of final.
Yeah.
And as needed after that.
As needed after that, okay. So it's not a, hey, we're done,
done
here. They can still contact you after that year if they need
Absolutely.
assistance. And you maintain some sort of relationship through the activities that you do year-round.
Exactly. And, you know, most of our matches have lasted, I would say our average match has lasted about 48 weeks. 48 weeks. But our longest match has been over 15 years.
Wow.
And so those people have become like family. And one of the problems that could come up is the provider passes away, and then the seeker has to leave the home.
Sure.
And usually they're given a little bit of time to do that, but once they've been through our whole process, it's a lot quicker to place them in another situation.
Because they know how it works, and you know what they're looking for based on their experience in that last home.
And we keep a list, an ongoing list of things that are going on. But we've had, you know, one provider that said when she passes, she wants her seeker to be able to stay in the house and the family not sell it until she's ready to move, and that home sharing could then place another seeker in that home with her so that she could afford to maintain it and not cost the family money.
Yeah.
So every situation's different.
Yeah. Well, that certainly gives a lot of reasons why this is a good solution for folks who maybe either need extra income and have space, or for people who are looking for an affordable place to live. So I really appreciate you sharing all of that with us today. And if any of our listeners are interested in finding out more, they can contact your organization?
Yes, they can go to our website, homesharing.org.
Okay.
And our phone number and contact address is on there as well.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And to continue talking about the models that are available, I want to ask you a few questions now, Mary May. If you could describe for us what cooperative housing is, because that's kind of what your specialty area is as a consultant, correct?
Sure, yes. Cooperative Housing is an organization, a nonprofit that came into existence in 1986. And its model is to build and then operate small housing for seniors. So our houses are either 5 or 10 units. So that means either 5 seniors or 10 seniors live together in a house. And what's wonderful is that this environment is truly a house. They're all ranch-style houses, so no steps. Ranch-style homes, everybody has their own private bedroom and bathroom, which are very spacious, and then they share the common areas of the house. And in the larger houses, we have quite extensive space as well, with great rooms and dens and hobby rooms and all of that. But in addition, there's also staff that do come to the homes 7 days a week to ensure that things are running smoothly in all the homes, and in the independent houses to do some of the cleaning, and in the supportive houses to do more of the cleaning and more support and services for the residents.
Right. So I want to make sure our audience understands exactly what you're talking about. The organization that you're talking about is Cooperative Housing, and they operate here in New Jersey. And what area do they serve?
So Cooperative Housing is located in Somerset County and has housing in Warren and in Bridgewater. But anyone can come from anywhere.
Right.
I mean, we've had people move from California and Florida to the housing, so it's not restricted, but it is senior specific, 62 and above.
62 and above. And so this happens here in New Jersey. They have an nonprofit organization that runs this, but it is generally it's a model that is used elsewhere. Is that true?
It's a model, and there are some variations in other places, but it's typically dependent upon the state or the municipal, both requirements and support, because the individuals who are moving in may not be able to afford all of the costs.
Right.
It is affordable. It's really actually more of a value concept for folks that want to manage their funds, whatever they might be, in the most effective way, as well as increasing their socialization. So there are some examples throughout the country, but they're all individualized, a little bit different.
Right.
Yeah.
So here in New Jersey, you've referenced that there are 5 people units and 10 person units, and that these are homes that they live in. So does the organization own and maintain the homes, and the residents pay to live there? Is that the...
Sure.
Right.
That's actually a good question, because each house is both owned by Cooperative Housing, but also is built by Cooperative Housing, specifically to be an appropriate model, to ensure the layout is comfortable and convenient to everyone, to ensure that everyone has a large bedroom and a very nice bathroom with its own private shower, walk-in shower, and then there are the 5 units and the 10 units, and the housing is constructed so that there are houses near each other, so there are communities on blocks.
Yeah, it sounds like the organization takes a lot of steps to make sure that there are accessibility things. You've already mentioned no stairs and walk-in showers. Obviously, that's a purposeful thing that they've done to make sure that the homes are suitable, because the age requirement is 62 and above. What are some of the other requirements for someone to qualify to live in a cooperative housing setting?
Oh, good question. Well, folks don't have to be in perfect health, but they do need to be able to manage their own health and their own life and all of those issues.
Right.
To move in, they shouldn't need hands-on care, because we don't provide that.
Right.
And they cannot have a dementia that would make them unsafe in any way.
Right.
They need to be able to take their own medications. Although what we found is that when people live in community, they support each other, and they all remind, hey, don't forget, sort of thing.
Sure.
Yes, there's staff that can also do some reminders, but the onus is on the individual themselves.
Right.
We don't take pets.
That was
Some people are scared,
going to be one of my
and
questions.
some are allergic, and it's also wear and tear on the house, and absolutely no smoking
Right.
anywhere on the premises.
Right. So that answers that question. There are no pets and no smoking allowed in any of these homes. And that brings up a good point that, you're talking about a space where 5 people or 10 people are going to be sharing it, and that might not be for everybody, but for some people it works. So can you kind of talk about what some of the other positives are of living in a setting, and who might be looking to live in a group setting versus someone who's maybe looking for independent space?
Right. Well, they have their own space, which is, it sort of blends both socialization or companionship and privacy. And in fact, a lot of folks that move in are moving into a larger home than they lived in, so they have more space. And there's, but besides that, they have the support of others around them, which they'll really enjoy. A lot of folks just don't do well being isolated, and what we've seen is that over the course of time, through nobody's fault, either the other members of the household are no longer living with the individual, or their community has changed and they're no longer best friends with everybody on the block, or perhaps they have transportation issues, or perhaps their family has moved, or they feel somewhat stranded.
Right.
And by being in this environment, they actually have more independence than they had wherever they were living previously, because they have someone who's doing the major cleaning, who's doing the cooking, who's doing so many of these tasks. And then they also have the support and the camaraderie and the opportunity to make new friends.
Right.
So one other aspect is that the communities are small. The homes are 5 to 10, and they're built in 10 to 25, couple of houses that could end up with 10 to 25 individuals living in an area.
Right.
And that works well for a lot of people who may be overwhelmed at the idea of living in a location, whether it's an apartment building or some other sort of housing where there's so many people.
Right.
And they can actually get very lost in that, not physically lost, but lose contact with people and be very isolated.
Yeah. So this model really encourages that kind of community feeling, whether it's with the people in the home that they're in or with the neighboring homes as well. So it kind of fosters those relationships.
And people are in and out of the houses all the time. I mean, there are several individuals that are out every day, whether they're going to a religious activity or whether they're volunteering somewhere, or even working, or others, are home buddies. And I think that really reflects all of us, that some of us like to be out, some of us like to be home.
Sure. Sure. And so in the home, is there a clear division or contract of sort of the things that need to happen, like cooking and cleaning and taking the garbage out, the simple tasks that we all do in our homes? When people are living in 5 or 10 people to a home, how is the division of those tasks laid out for folks?
Well, that's something that's really been thought about at length. And so cooperative housing has 2 sorts of housing. One is independent and one is supportive.
Okay.
And for folks that are in the independent houses, which are 5 units, they take turns making meals for each other on the weekend. They put together the menu and the grocery list, and the staff does all of the shopping. Okay. And so they work it out on who's cooking and who's cleaning on those up from dinner on those nights. The general housekeeping is taken care of by staff. Okay. And in the supportive houses, the meals are always taken care of by staff as well to make it easier.
So in the independent, is the cost of the service for shopping and housekeeping built into what they're paying to reside there?
Everybody it's interesting, everybody pays based on their own income and assets. So if the 3 of us were in a house, we could well be paying different rates. And so if someone is in independent housing, they're going to be paying less than someone is getting a higher level of support, supportive housing. Also, if someone's income is less, income and assets, they would be paying less than someone who has higher income and assets. And that works out very, very well in the setting.
Sure. Well, it's certainly, we can see the differences in the model of home sharing and how that differs, but how it could fit the need for folks who maybe need, in addition to space to live, assistance as well, and the type of community that it provides for people to avoid things like isolation and stuff like that. So I appreciate you sharing those details with us. I do want to make sure that we also talk with Katie, because Katie's involved in a project that focuses on aging in place, and we know that having a safe, affordable place to live is very integral to making that work. So can you tell us a little bit about the project that's going on in Montclair?
Sure. Lifelong Montclair is an aging in place initiative, as you mentioned, funded by the Partners for Health Foundation in collaboration with the Township of Montclair. So we have support from both ends, which is great. And it consists right now of 26 partner organizations. So we're trying to harness the power of existing community organizations who are already doing a lot of these efforts and projects and enhancing them and trying to harness synergy wherever we can, making sure people can work together to make the community a better place to grow older.
Right. And so this is a project that you're doing in Montclair, but this is sort of a national movement or initiative, right? There are principles or things that make a community age-friendly? Is that
Sure,
correct?
yes. Montclair is actually the second community in New Jersey after Princeton to receive the age-friendly designation from the World Health Organization and AARP. And the World Health Organization puts forth 8 domains that contribute to age-friendliness or livability in the broader sense.
Right.
And so we've really used those 8 domains as guidance for the community where we can improve and what our current assets are. And I think it's a good place for other communities to start to look at those 8 domains and see what low-hanging fruit is already out there and maybe what long-term projects might fit into.
Sure, sure. So we've talked about these housing models, and obviously in your experience in doing the Aging in Place project, it's what it says it is what it says it is. It's people living in their communities, whether it's their original home or staying in the community of Montclair, particularly for your project. So how important and how do you see housing being a part of that process? What are the reasons that people really need that affordable housing in order to make that work?
It's vital, particularly in New Jersey, specifically in Montclair. Cost of living is very expensive. Home sharing is actually one of our partner organizations, so that's very important to make sure that there are options for people. So it's not just the affordability, but the variety of options to address the diversity in this state, diversity in the broad sense. Whatever people want to be able to age in place comfortably and within their means, let's try to collaborate with various organizations to make sure that's possible.
Yeah. In addition to home sharing, are there any other things that you've seen take place in order for people to make aging in place work for them? Are there other housing concepts or options that they've chosen?
In the U.S. and broader, there are many communities that add visitability standards,
Okay.
Which basically mean that anybody, no matter their ability level, could come visit you. And so that's kind of those standards plus universal design and incorporating those in new development really mean that communities can retain their older population for as long as that population wants to stay in their community.
Right, and I think that speaks to a great thing about making communities accessible for everyone. We've even said before that if a community is friendly for seniors, it's friendly for everyone. And so that idea that just because a designation or a principle might make that community safe for seniors doesn't mean that it's going to affect anyone else in a negative way. It actually makes it safer and a more pleasant place for everyone, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, great. So I really appreciate you sharing that information with us and how important of a role housing plays in the aging in place concept in general. And I appreciate all 3 of you sharing all of these details. I think it's a great lot of information for our audience, and I hope that they follow up and check out some of these concepts and find out more information about what all 3 of you are doing. So I thank you very much for that time. And thank you as well for sharing your time with us today. Aging Insights is produced by the New Jersey Foundation for Aging and is made possible by donations to the foundation. To become a sponsor for Aging Insights programs, please go to our website at www.njfoundationforaging.org or give us a call in the office at 609-421-0206. All of our previous shows may be viewed on our website. We'd also like to remind you to find out about senior services in your area, please contact your county office on aging. Their phone numbers are on our website, or you can call the state hotline at 1-877-222-3737. Thank you for watching this episode of Aging Insights, and remember, aging is everyone's business.